Hello and welcome to Victory Lap. I am your host, Stephanie Nilsson. Thank you so much for joining us. Victory Lap is a platform to help people maximize their cruise control, aka comfort zones, power up their pit stops, those unexpected growth zones, and celebrate their victories, those very important anchoring zones, by having real talk with real people who are doing some amazing things. So make sure you hit the subscribe and notification button below so that you don't miss any episodes. Now get those engines fired up and meet me at the starting line. This is a lap you will not want to miss. On your marks, get set. Welcome to the show. The quote that I've chosen for today is actually a Marvel quote. And it says, "Heroes are made by the path that they choose, not by the powers they are graced with." And I absolutely love this. Pretty soon you're going to see why it's so relevant to today's guest. Speaking of today's guest, she is an absolute powerhouse, full of so much energy and good vibrations, and is so much fun to talk to. She has a degree in psychology, and she now has her own personal coaching and training business. And we're going to have some great conversations with her today. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome to the show, Mrs. Gerri Kim. Yay! Hello, Gerri. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Oh, Stephanie, it is really indeed my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm excited that you're here. So, I want to start by just highlighting the fact that one of your major focuses with your coaching company is highlighting the superhero within.
Right.
And the reason I love that so much is I am a massive superhero fan. And I always say that Wonder Woman is my alter ego. And I draw strength from that. But anyways, I want you to talk a little bit about how you came into coaching and how you made that your kind of your tag.
Thank you, Stephanie. I came across it because, I was living a regular life, a comfortable life. But, there's that fire inside of you that it's there, but you're not sure where it is.
Yes.
And then my friend introduced me to DISC and John Maxwell. When I started to learn about my strengths and my limitations, I discovered there's so much more. There's a wealth inside of each of us. And as I go through the journey, I realize it's all inside of me as like it's inside of you, Stephanie.
Yes.
So that's why the key to me is that there's a superhero inside of you that's just waiting to be basically become Superman, right?
Yeah. I absolutely love that. I think that's a fantastic like a visual for people too, right? That they know, this has been the most amazing thing in my journey. I didn't know that I wanted to share with others. I didn't know that I wanted to teach others, but it was almost like the more that I started to learn and grow, I no longer could sit just having that information for myself. There was something in me that was so strong about, hey, I need to help others too with this information. I can't keep this to myself. And the more that you learn and grow and you invite more people into your life that's like-minded, this seems to be the thing for everybody who's a learner.
Yes, I think so. And that's kind of tapping into your inner strengths, right? Because all of our strengths are different. And once you discover your superhero, your inner superhero, you're going to discover strengths. And once you have that strength, you have to share it. You're overflowing.
Yeah.
So you have to share with other people and help them discover their inner superhero.
Yeah, it's so amazing, isn't it?
I love it.
Yeah,
it's
me
so
too.
exciting. You can feel the energy, right? Even as we're speaking, like our energy is increasing and we're vibrating ours because we connect in that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So speaking of energy, one of the things that I want to ask you about, and I think that this is super interesting as well, is what is this humor challenge that you've done? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I believe that the more playful we are, the more our life expands. So if you could highlight your thoughts around that, that would be great.
Absolutely. When I grew up as an immigrant, I was told to, study hard, get good grades, and, you'll have the American dream. So that was the focus. And with that, there wasn't a lot of humor.
Yes.
Right? But I think we're learning more and more. We're learning about the mind, and we're understanding that we actually learn faster and better when we're relaxed and we're happy.
Yes.
We are a whole person, right?
Yes.
It's not just the mind working. It's really the whole person. So we are able to absorb and to make different type of connections when we're in a good mood, we're in a relaxed state, and adding humor is so important. It really is. Getting back to the superhero motive is that it's your shield, right?
Oh, I love that. Yes, I absolutely love that. Now, one of the things that I picked up in one of your videos when you were talking about the humor challenge is that your mentor told you that it was something that he learned. All of us need to learn how to be humorous. I never even considered that before.
Right. I know. It's one of those traits where you feel like you have it or you don't.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But it's not.
Yeah.
It's really something for all of us to enjoy. And the more we develop it within ourselves, the more we can connect with others in that sense. Once you strike with humor, the guards come off, right? We're just more relaxed.
Yes.
That's the other thing is that I didn't realize I was funny. I knew the power of it, but I didn't realize it. So that's why I accepted the challenge, because like you, I want to reach out and connect and help people. But how do I do that in a way that's going to kind of open up the doors in a way? And that's with humor, to let them know, we're all the same in a way.
Right? Well, we are. And you know what, though, I have to say, opposite of you, I think I'm funny. My kids tell me all the time I'm not. And I laugh at my own jokes, and my kids are like, "You're not funny, Mom." I'm funny? They're like, "Yeah, only you."
Which makes you funny, right?
Yeah, right. I actually thought one time I should do a comedy routine, and I will start by standing up and saying, "So I'm here because I'm not funny." But humor does so much for us. Yes, you're right. It breaks down walls, and it helps us connect, and helps us to feel that, there's something that is similar about us, right? But they've also said that laughing actually can heal the body. You can get healthy through laughter and humor. And I've heard stories of people that have been sick with terrible diseases, and they have sat and watched movies to make themselves laugh.
Right.
And they've healed.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that, that's the magic bullet. I'm sure there's a bunch of different things, but they contributed that to their healing.
Right. And this speaks with the whole idea of how important our attitude is, right? Like, when you're given a placebo, but the doctor says that you're going to do well, you are going to do well because it's that belief. So added to that belief that you are going to do well, what if you added humor? What if you made somebody laugh and, their energy level was lighthearted? It just adds to it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
To think of joy and think of happiness and think of times when, you were just so free and you just laugh from your belly.
Absolutely. I love those occasions when you just laugh so hard that you're crying, and you don't even it gets to the point where you don't even know what you're laughing about anymore. You're just in hysterics, right?
Right. It creates a state of mind that really engages all of us, and it changes the physiology of us as well. Just like smiling,
Yes.
When you smile, it changes the physiology of your face.
Yes.
It radiates a certain type of, energy that you wouldn't otherwise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, you have a BA in psychology, correct? That's what you
studied?
Yes.
I do.
Yeah. So that's why you have a deeper understanding of all of this, right?
I find the mind fascinating.
Me too. The human psyche, and the physical side of it too. And like you were saying earlier, that it's all connected.
Absolutely.
And yet we fail to realize that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember years ago, my mother introduced me to You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hayes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you're familiar with that book or not, but in the book, it talks about if you have a short shoulder, it's connected to an emotional thing, a limiting belief often, right? And when you can work through the emotional side of it, you can alleviate some of the physical pain.
Right. Because, a lot of the pain that we are feeling, it's in response to a stress. And the stress, where does it usually come from? From our mind.
Exactly, right? Right. But you know what? Further than that, Gerri, and maybe you can speak to this a little bit, it comes from our mind, but it really comes from how we're perceiving things. Because oftentimes the stress and the dialogue and the stories that we're creating aren't even real.
Oh, absolutely. I think you hit it on the tail there, because it's how we respond and how we think it's going to happen, right? You hear of people who are afraid of snakes, but they haven't even actually seen the snake. About seeing the snake.
Yeah.
That emotional state, right? Of being anxious.
Right.
So exactly what you said, how we perceive it and what kind of associations we've made with it already before it actually happens.
Absolutely. It's funny that you chose snakes, because I seem to have developed an irrational fear of snakes as I've gotten older.
Whoa.
Yeah, snakes and spiders. I don't know why, but anyways, yeah.
Is there a lot where you are, Stephanie?
No. Back to being funny, right?
That's right.
Speaking of which, Gerri, that's one thing that I have really come to enjoy as my awareness or my maturity or whatever you want to call it is kind of kicked in, is how I can be playful about myself and the little idiosyncrasies that maybe before I might have been afraid to share or ashamed of or embarrassed by. Now I embrace them.
Right. I love that word. Thank you for saying that word, playful.
Oh,
you hear about it when, we're raising our kids, right? Because I have 2 kids, and you think about it and, how they learn while they're playing, but that hasn't changed really.
Exactly.
The whole idea of us being playful with each other, and it's that, again, that sense of, finding a sense of humor, because most of the things that we find humorous, it's really reality, but in an extreme way. And
it's true. Yeah.
Different perspective, different angle.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. My father, he actually taught me a lot about being playful. But the funny thing is growing up, he was a very serious and a very stern man. Right. It wasn't until he got older that he started to connect with his playful side. And I think I was 16 the first time I ever saw my dad be silly. Right. And he got more and more playful as he aged. So he taught me that it's okay to connect back to who you were as a child, right? And I think that's kind of a cycle that we do go through. Some of us never get there, but we start in our infancy, being adventurous and open and playful and, seeking that learning. And then we move into adult or teenage years, I can't say the word properly, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden we become so hyper aware of the people around us, and we have all these ideas about, oh my God, what are they thinking? How are they judging us? How are they, and we've just become so concerned about how we're appearing to other people, right? And then we move into adult and young adults, and we get really, really serious and focused. And we forget to play, right? So we lose that. And I think that as we grow, both with our awareness and with our spirituality and all that kind of stuff, we kind of gravitate back to that childhood wonder and that playfulness.
I love that analogy because, you talked about the word awareness. We have a different level of awareness, and the awareness comes with the growth. It's the growth journey.
Yes.
And to know that we can just go back to the idea of imagination, playfulness, and just the curiosity. I mean, these were the things that was encouraged when we were younger.
And
right?
then discouraged as we mature.
But here we are back again, right? But it's a level of awareness to realize that, you know, me personally, right?
Exactly. And you know, this is something too that maybe you could talk about. For me, I found in my personal journey is I started to learn because I had things that weren't working in my life. So I picked up a book on relationships and I picked up a book on responsibility because they weren't working for me. Right? And I got hooked on self-development. And every time that I figured out something, I found there was more to figure out. And for the longest time, I lived in this space where I went, I know nothing. Therefore, I'm opening to learning everything. I know nothing, right? And I mean, I'm a little kinder to myself. I recognize some of the skills that I've developed along the ways, but I'm still very open to learning. And I know that my growth will be continual. And I find it quite fascinating because I think initially I didn't want to grow. I just didn't want to be hurt in these areas anymore. But once I started to grow, I couldn't get enough of it. Do you want to talk to that a little bit?
Well, that's very interesting because, you know, when I studied psychology, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with it, because at that time it was either you go for your PhD or you're a social worker. And that wasn't the investment that I was willing to make at that point. But I did, like you, gravitate towards self-help books. There's so many out there.
I know, right?
But at the same time, I got discouraged, the fact that there were so many out there and the fact that it didn't really seem to make a profound difference. So I kind of laid it aside. And, you know, as human beings, we adapt to our environment. So I adapted the best that I could with the resources and the level of awareness that I had. But now, you know, now that I'm back in the business world, right? And because, you know, that cycle of, you know, being with my children is over, I'm just so excited because this field is just, it really is limitless. Because we're understanding as much as we can, or much more than we used to, the power of our brain.
Yes.
It's the greatest machine ever.
Yes. And the power of our choices.
Yes.
Right?
Right. To know that, you know, we can work with our brain instead of this amorphous organ, like we all work together. And the fact that with you, like you said, we can choose our thought. We can choose how to use our brain. Because it's the greatest machine. And just like any organ that we have, it really is something for us to maximize to our own potential, right?
100%. 100%, right? And I think that we think that after college or university or whatever, our learning is done. And then we're just stuck in this path that we've chosen, and that's it, that's all. And that is just not the truth anymore, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, that's structured learning.
Yes.
But really, learning, it, you know, is throughout your life, right? It's a journey. It's a marathon. And I find that now in hindsight that, you know, what you learned in school, it gets you into the door.
Yes.
But then once you're in the door, you're learning their system, their ways, their technical protocols, and developing expertise in that particular field. So it's learning throughout your life. And again, about the choice, it's about what are we choosing to learn? We have that power, and it's such a powerful choice that we have. What are we choosing to fill our minds with?
Absolutely. I read an article years ago, like I'm talking when I was in I'm sure I was like in my mid-20s. So, you know, a while back. But the article said that in the future, the true value was going to be in knowledge. And that's where we should be making our investment, right? And at the time, I didn't understand it to the same capacity as I do today. Because at the time I was thinking, oh, that's education, that's higher, you know, degrees and so on and so forth. But I think what they were really alluding to from my experience today is the ability to attain knowledge. And that isn't necessarily through an educational system. It's by, you know, I mean, nowadays, if I'm, even with my editing, just today, I had a problem with my video. Google, how do I, right?
Right.
And I am constantly learning how to do things. And that's what creates the value.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time that I'm learning and growing and developing more knowledge within me, that also gives me a higher capacity to share that knowledge with others.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Knowledge. And I think there's different forms of knowledge, because adding to that, William Buffett, what does he invest in? I mean, he basically closes the door and spends 4 or 5 hours on what? On himself, right? That's to him, that's the greatest investment. His knowledge and developing himself. So I think that's why this field is so exciting, because we're really understanding that wherever you are, there is so much more ahead of you. And the idea of coaching, because you're a coach as well, we're tapping into that individual to help them see, their value, their skill, their inner superhero, really. And that's exciting. It's exciting to be part of that journey for somebody else, isn't it?
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say, I find this so exciting, right? And my purpose, I've discovered, is preparing the path for others. And what that means to me is that if I can do it, so can others, right? And I look at my journey and where I came from to where I am today, and that excites me in sharing with others. But what also excites me is knowing how far I've come makes me have a clear vision of how much further I can go. There are no limits. The only limits we have in life are the limits that we place on ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to thank you for being that leader, having your own show, right? Doing this on a weekly basis, making that commitment to your audience and to yourself. I mean, you're forging a path here. And then we're going to look to you and say, well, like you said, if Stephanie could do it, then maybe I could do it. It's the whole idea of like modeling and seeing something. I see some of me in you. Oh, you want me to know that, well, if Stephanie could, take that step forward, then maybe I can. It opens that possibility, the door of possibilities.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Gerri. I really appreciate that. And that is exactly what my intent is. I could have better lighting. I don't have a studio. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many areas that I can still grow on my show, but I didn't wait until I had all that. I had the concept. I knew that I wanted to have guests on the show because so many people have amazing things to share. And I really wanted to present a platform that the viewers can say, oh my gosh, look what Gerri's doing. That's so cool. I really resonated with her. Or look what Luca's doing. That is so amazing. I really resonated with that person. Or even look what Stephanie's doing. It was funny because I had this kind of epiphany recently on one of the little micro learnings that I do for Pace Lab Perspective. And people ask me all the time, why are you so confident? How did you get so confident? And I'm always a little bit surprised at that question because I don't view myself as an overly confident person. But what I realized is where they're seeing my confidence is in my braveness. I'm willing to step forward. I'm willing to take chances. I still have the, oh my gosh, what if nobody watches? Or, what if I fumble on my words? Or all the insecurities that every human being has. But I just put them aside with my purpose of preparing the path for others. So I'm willing to get out there and look stupid, if that's going to help someone else go, hey, she could do it, right? But that's my purpose, is to get out there and prepare the path and let other people know it's not as big and scary as we think it is. And it doesn't have to be this big production. It can be little things,
Like having this conversation, right?
This is what it is, right? Connecting and talking and conversing.
Right. And I just want to say that, when you say, oh, if she could do it, sometimes that's the voice and the tonality that we hear. What if they're saying, wow, if she can do it?
This is true. Thank you so much for that.
Wow, if she can do it, right?
Yeah.
I'm so inspired. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking. That's what they're saying. That's what they're thinking. Right?
Well, Gerri. Yeah.
I love
But
that.
see, this goes back to we are always learning and growing. So people can be looking at me like that, and yet I have a different voice. And then we communicate, and you help me to remove that limiting belief. And again, this is something that I say as often as I can. It doesn't matter who you are. We all struggle. Take the step. Just move forward in it. We all struggle. And don't position yourself against the other person. Just be the best version that you can be of yourself, and be kind to yourself. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, okay. So I want to ask you some of my victory lap questions, because I'm sure you've got some fantastic insights here. So the first one I want to ask you is, how do you maximize your cruise control? So to me, cruise control is your comfort zone, right? And I know there's people out there with the mindset that we should never really live in our comfort zone, but I don't think the comfort zone is a bad place. We need to be comfortable too in our lives, right? But how do we maximize that? How do we get the most out of life when it's just kind of ticking and going?
I love that question, and I've been thinking a lot about it. And it came to my mind that I think of it in a dual form.
Okay.
Like you said, there's 4 stages of competence. There's the unconscious incompetence, where you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
There's the conscious incompetence, where you're like, oh my goodness, there's so much I don't know.
Right.
The conscious competence, where that's where you're like honing in your expertise, your experience, your techniques. And then there's the unconscious competence. And I think of cruise control in that sense, in one area, because we want to get to a point where we're not thinking about what else do I need to learn? How am I going to do this? You want to be like on, right?
I love that.
You're on, and you feel great and confident. And I think, the journey, I think of it as a base camp level. You're climbing Mount Everest, right? You get to your base camp, which is kind of like a tactical goal. You want to feel great. You want to feel like you're on cruise control, because you've achieved so much. Like you said, you're looking back, you want to know that you achieved so much, right?
Yes.
So I like being in cruise control.
I love it.
Right? But the duality is the fact that, we don't want to stay there.
Yes.
Right? Yes. Because that's base camp 3 or 4, and you still have to get to base camp 7.
Yeah.
So,
I love it.
So when we get to that, or for me, when I get to that point, I think about my why. When I started my coaching business, there was a why there, because this was a huge leap of faith for me, Stephanie.
Right.
I knew there were going to be some big challenges ahead. So I needed a big why. So then I think about my why. And I think about, having a mastermind group, the power of having a mastermind group, of being around like-minded people who love you, who accept you, but who wants better things for you. And, they say that if you're in the picture, you're in the frame, you can't see the picture, right? So your mastermind group, they can see the picture. They can see the masterpiece beyond where you are, and that kind of bumps you.
Yeah,
right? So you don't see that control.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. It's kind of like mentorship too, right?
Right.
Yeah, I love that. Love it. Okay, so we all have those pit stops that we get stuck in life. Like, we're driving along, we get a flat tire. Those unexpected moments that force us to grow, not the planned ones, which we much prefer, but the ones that force us to grow. And I know for myself, the way I react to those are very different than the way I used to. I don't stay stuck anymore. And I just want to hear your thoughts around that.
Well, this is a loaded topic.
They're the fun ones.
Right. We make it fun, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But we're all there. We've all been there, and we know that's part of the journey. So I think of it as like, you pull out your junk drawer and you flip it over. It's like, oh my goodness, it's a mess.
Yes.
And with most junk drawers, there's so much emotion. why do I still have it?
Yes.
Why is it still there? And I haven't gotten to it, right? There's so much emotion to that kind of a concept. And like you, I wasn't, this grew with a level of awareness. And this is part of the journey process where now, I really, and again, it speaks to your idea of being kind to yourself.
Yes.
I take that space.
Yes.
With a capital S, take that space.
Yes.
Step back. And for some people, it could mean like stepping into another room physically.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Just changing your environment, taking that space. And then thinking about like, I think this is a time when intuition, if you could kind of tap into your intuition,
Yes.
you can work through it because, our subconscious mind, the processing power is amazing. And the connections that they can make, again, with the junk drawer, like, oh, goes with this. Oh, this goes with, like, you see things in a different way. You kind of, and you see it with a different light, different hue, and different things are accentuated. And that's when the intuition can come, bring you some great ideas and some new connections.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I absolutely love this because this is exactly what I do. When something comes up and blows up for me, I take a step and I look at it as an opportunity to learn so that I'm open.
Mm-hmm.
I have faith that I'm going to get through it because I always do.
Right.
I'm open and then I can listen to what the next steps are.
Right.
Yeah.
And I had an experience when I was in my 20s. We were at a company luncheon. It was a holiday luncheon. And so I'm sitting in front of this woman, one of my coworkers, and out of the blue, she said, I've never shared this with anybody, but
aren't we lucky?
But there was something that you said earlier. I thought, oh, okay, maybe I'll share that. Yeah. She looked at me and she said, "You're ugly." And so I bring this up because I didn't know what to do with that stuff.
No. Yes.
It's like, and at that time, I didn't have this strategy.
Right.
But if I were able to take a step back, give myself space before I let all that emotion rise up and make that kind of attachment. I mean, I'm much better about it now, obviously. But
the thing is, and I mean, I think we've all had situations where somebody has said something unkind to us that has hurt deeply and we've ruminated over it and held on to it and brought it with us. But I think, again, when we come to the understanding of the awareness, we get to a place where we go, that's on you. That's about you. That is not about me. This is your issues that you need to deal with. I'm not taking that.
Exactly. And that's the level of awareness and growth that's part of the journey. And so, I think about, somewhere where I was stuck. I was actually very stuck about social media, Stephanie.
Oh, interesting.
The fact that I knew I need to have a presence in social media. That's part of the whole marketing and branding strategy. But
absolutely.
I was so resistant to it. I kept on postponing. You know how you rationalize, oh no, I don't have this, I don't have that, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
And I realized that was part of it. I didn't want to put myself out there and be vulnerable.
Yes.
But again, with the growth and the level of awareness and what you said is like, well, that's more on you than me.
Yes. Yes.
And stepping back and allowing the intuition to take over to say, well, I think I have something that I do want to say. I want to talk about the 15 invaluable laws of growth on consistency. And just like you said, taking action.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because this is something that I learned over the years is that there's so much you can learn from a personal development perspective, but none of it means anything if you don't take action. So action is my favorite thing now because if you don't take action, it's all for naught, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
There's a big abyss. Let me see my hands. Thinking about it. And then taking action. Look at this step here.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And that's where most people live because they're afraid. But if you just take one step, and Gerri, if there's nothing that I've learned from John Maxwell that has been more valuable to me, it is take a step. That's it. That's all. And the next step will appear. And then the next step will appear. And when John talks about his journey and how he's so different where he is today than where he thought he was going to be when he started his journey, right? And it was all because he just kept taking that step. Every time that I think, what am I doing this for? I remember John's story and I think, it's okay. Just take your step. Just take your step, right? Build your rings on your way down, as Paul Martinelli always says, right? This has been invaluable to me because we learn and we grow and we learn and we grow. And as we step, things open up to us, right?
Absolutely.
And we find our people.
We do.
So there's going to be people that view me online and think, oh, she doesn't resonate with me. I don't like her. And then other people are going to go, she's awesome. I want to tune in every week. And there's going to be people in between.
That's right.
And that's okay. I don't have to be liked by everybody. I just have to do what your intuition, your heart tells you to do, and just follow your steps.
Absolutely. You know, this is a global world now.
Yes,
yes.
Yes, exactly.
Your tribe, if you are
absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I want to ask you, not that the rest of it hasn't been super fun, but the fun question. How do you celebrate your victories?
Oh my goodness. You know, I'm working with a cohort and she shared with me, I thought that was just so important, that there's an inside victory and there's an outside victory. And you know, this is a victory for you, Stephanie, to get here where you have a platform, right? But it took, I'm thinking, a lot of, you know, inside victories to get here.
Absolutely.
And, you know, when you're in a certain part of your journey, the inside victories are so important. And I think the inside victory as like mindset victories, right? How many times did I have to repeat to myself that inspiring quote that says, you know, you only fail if you stop?
Yes, it's true. Do you know how many renditions I have done of trying to do videos until I came up with this? And I'm sure that this is going to evolve and grow and change too, right?
Absolutely. Yes, you're going to learn new technology. You're going to learn this lighting words. You're going to learn. Absolutely. And that's the fun part. But you didn't let that stop you. Like you said, you took a step. And that's what the internal or inside victories do that win. It keeps you a step forward. I mean, there were so many times when like, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to post. I didn't want to make the call. I didn't want to, you know, there's so much. But then, you know, you make that commitment to yourself, right?
Yes.
Because you see that goal and you just do what you need to do for that day. And that is a victory. And that's why like those inside victories are so important in the journey. Absolutely. Because not only like you're being integral to yourself, because you're keeping a promise to yourself that I'm going to do this every single week. I have to find the speakers, right? And in some days it's easy and some days it's not, right? Absolutely. And some days that is not easy, that you're integral to yourself when you keep that commitment, you know, when you're being persistent and when you're being consistent, right?
Absolutely.
But the added value is the momentum that you eventually, like in the beginning, it's like this, it's a platform. But then you see that momentum. And like you mentioned before about like, you don't know what's going to open up.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny about that because you do get discouraged sometimes, right? And I looked on my stats for my Victory Light website and they're like going through the roof. I was like, oh, I got to keep going. But I just want to make a comment about what you said about the commitment to yourself, right? That you're honoring the commitment to yourself. And I just want to say this. You have to have value for yourself in order to honor the commitments that you make to yourself. Because if you don't have value for yourself, you're not going to honor your commitments, right? So, and this is something that I've learned is that the more that I honor myself, the more that I value myself, the more that I can meet my own commitments, the more I extend that to others too.
Oh, yes.
Right? Everything starts here, whether we realize it or not.
That's why we all need to discover our inner superhero.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so Gerri, if someone wants to work with you to discover their inner superhero, where do they find you?
Well, I am on LinkedIn, Gerri Kim. I'm on Facebook. I have a personal page, but I do also have a business page. It's Gerri Kim Clarity Coaching.
Okay.
And, my email address is jerryKimGlobal@gmail.com.
At gmail.com?
Gmail.com, yes.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, and I have a John Maxwell website as well. So
okay, awesome. Gerri, I have absolutely loved this. This has been wonderful having you on the show. I love your energy. I love just everything. It's just been fabulous.
Well, I've been so looking forward to spending some time with you and just getting that one-on-one time and just picking your brain and just sharing our journey together. Absolutely. And I just love the fact that there's so much energy here. I mean, I hope everybody can feel this, but there's a lot of energy.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine how they can't.
All right.
Yeah. No, it's just been fabulous. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, Gerri. I really appreciate you being on the show.
Oh, it's so my pleasure. And thank you, Stephanie, for again, forging the pathway for us.
Well, thank you. Thank you. My pleasure. All right, you go out there and find some superheroes to release. Take care. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Ciao, ciao. Bye. So much energy, right? How fun was that? I just love being with a guest that makes me laugh so much and brings so much passion with her. One of the things that I love most about Gerri is, like many of us, her story wasn't easy. She was an immigrant as a child coming over from Korea, and yet look who she's become. And it just goes to show it does not matter what obstacles are in our way. If we truly want to be successful, we have the opportunity to do it. So again, I want to thank Gerri for being on our show. I loved this interview, and I hope you did too. Thank you so much for watching. One of the things that I love most about Victory Lap is that it showcases everyday people who've been inspired to do some pretty cool things. If you've been inspired to maybe start a new business, go for that promotion at work, improve your relationship, or want to level up in any area of your life, but you don't know where to start, I can help you with that. Check out my website at www.stephanienielsen.ca to see the different ways in which I can work with you. For more episodes of inspired people doing cool things, check out www.victorylap.ca. And if you have an inspiring story, fill out that contact us form. You just may be the next guest on the show. You can also find me on social media, Facebook and Instagram at stephanienielsen.ca and Twitter at Stevie Creates. So keep those comments coming. I love to hear from you guys. Maybe you can even share some of the ways in which you're celebrating your victories. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Until the next lap. Ciao, ciao.